G'day guys, welcome to Sumo's Projects and welcome to the last of this Makers in Lockdown series. This time around we've got Mark Dainer from DainerDesign, aka Pallet Punter in Townsville, Queensland, Australia. Interesting conversation, so let's go ahead and listen to Mark's story and how he's encountering everything in life that everyone else in the world is.
G'day.
G'day!
How you going, mate?
I'm alright, how are you wearing?
Oh, pretty good. I'll pick a spot where it's not so bloody bright.
Busy at work?
We walk into the hospitals, but we keep as few people going in as possible at the moment for obvious reasons.
Yep.
Cool, mate.
Oh, beaut. I'm glad I could get you, mate, after a couple of attempts of,
Yeah.
So how's it all treating you with the coronavirus situation that's upon us all?
Oh, mate, it's not too bad. I mean, where's the sun? I'll get out the sun. There we go. I guess we're following the rules like everyone else up in Townsville. Like driving to work this morning, Saturday and Sunday, through an industrial area. It's like a ghost town. So that was the most eerie for me, like just seeing nothing at all. No one at any service stations. No one through the industrial park. It was just a bit odd, Yeah. And I'm actually up at Charters Towers at the moment on a job, and just flying over those rural community, there's no cars on the road, and it's just dead quiet. It's freaky.
It is, mate. Yeah. I've been noticing that, especially where I am. But sometimes, some mornings when I go into the city, it's still a little bit busy. But there's still people working, obviously, and that's their time to get out and about. But generally, I can get across Melbourne in 20 minutes quicker than I ever have. So it's just unbelievable. But So what's how you coping when you're at home and obviously I know you're always busy.
Yeah, I mean, to me it sort of just feels like school holidays at the moment.
Yeah.
But my wife, she's at home full time, so she was shut down with her business. So that's probably the biggest change for us. We're back to a single income, both kids at home, and now just trying to balance and figure it all out, just like everyone is, I guess.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
I don't want to cut you off, but that's a patient being loaded into the helicopter.
No. We can carry that on another time, mate. You got to. So as quick as he appeared, he disappeared. Mark is a frontline and essential services worker in the emergency area. Good on him. He's a true character and a top Aussie bloke. Just like to thank everyone who has participated in my chats around the world. Means a lot to me, and I hope it means something to people watching. As we all hope, fingers crossed, that the world will go back to some normality and we can all flatten the curve all around the globe. So thank you guys, I appreciate that, and let's continue on. Thanks for coming on Sumo's Projects to start with. That's awesome.
Too easy.
Last time we had a little chat, I got a bit of footage of you live in action working. So that to me was a bit of a full-on realisation of your actual boots on the ground and seeing you up front, what you do. So what exactly can I say your title in your employment would be, mate?
So I'm employed by the Queensland government, which at the moment, I'm very thankful for, because I get paid every fortnight. So first and foremost, I can't be more thankful for that. So my job, I'm an air crew officer on a rescue helicopter. So basically, I sit up front with the pilot 95% of the time, and most of our work is transporting people from regional hospitals, bringing them back to Townsville to get them to a decent hospital. So the other 5 to 10, I suppose, % of the time, we go to traffic accidents, all your rescues, your water jobs, so all the cool stuff, I guess, that you're more likely to see on the news. And a lot of those jobs I then get in the back. So I operate the winch, so I'm the guy that sends the other guy and the paramedics and the doctors up and down the winch cable if the job requires that sort of rescue. But generally, when we're landing on a roadside, I'll stay in the front with the pilot. We've actually got another crewman in back, so he'll talk the aircraft onto the ground when the pilot can no longer see the exact spot for landing. So he controls or comms the aircraft to the ground. So that's the crewman job, which is what I do as well. But now it's more of a front left seat crewman, so basically a non-flying co-pilot.
Yep.
So we sit up the front with him. We talk on some radios. We make all the phone calls, liaise with people on the ground, almost run the mission, if you will. And we tackle the tasking, get all the positioning and all that sort of stuff. And we leave all the piloting stuff, talking to air traffic control and flying the machine. We leave that to the pilot.
And I take it they'd be what sort of aircraft is it? Like obviously a helicopter, and it'd be state of the art.
Yep.
What is it?
Well, it is. We fly in an AW139, so you'll pretty much see them over all of Victoria. The ones you see flying around are 139s, and they've had those for several years. The entire New South Wales now runs 139s. In Queensland, our Brisbane, our Cairns base have been running this aircraft for about 10 years, and it was only last year that Townsville finally got its 139. So it is state of the art. It's still slightly older technology than what is out there, but from what we were flying in, a 412, which it's basically a two-engine Huey, so a Vietnam era airframe, more than capable, but now we've just got more powerful, faster, air-conditioned helicopter, which is fantastic.
The world's changed for everyone. It's sort of a blink of an eye, tip of a hat. Everything's gone a little bit loopy. Coronavirus came along, and it's had a devastating effect, more so in other areas of the world. And and as I've spoken to a few people in Europe and Canada recently, you're up in Townsville in the tropics. How's that had an impact or an effect on your life?
I guess so. What you see, we're abiding by all the same rules that are laid down nationally. So I drive to work. It's especially on a weekend. It's a ghost town. So everyone is playing the game.
Yeah.
Studying, which is fantastic. So in town, we've only had, including people that have got better, we've only had about 20 cases. I think I've just lost you. So I think I lost you there. But so only in Townsville, we've only had about 20 cases. So big scheme of things, it's highly unlikely to get infected. So we haven't had an outbreak, if you will. But everyone's got to play the game because we don't know where people are coming and going. You don't know when you're going to have a little cluster full. So the day-to-day inconvenient for a lot of things. For myself, I still get to go to work, but the whole family's at home full time. So wife's at home. Her business was shut down. So we're in the middle of moving premises. So we just got out of one shop front. We're trying to renovate and move into the other one. And government said, no more, you can't operate. So that takes that's quite stressful for the family. So, but I think what we've seen in the last few weeks, again, we should be pretty thankful that we do live in Australia, and we're seeing what the government is going to do to try and keep people alive, basically, and let us pop out the other side. So with the JobKeeper scheme, that's fantastic. Hopefully it all comes to fruition, and businesses and employees can ride this thing out. And I think in Australia we're going to ride it out pretty untouched compared to what we're seeing overseas. So that's the gist of it, how things are up here, and from my perspective, what I think's going on.
Yeah, and that's basically what I can see happening in the big scheme of things. Australia's having a low density living type thing, unless you're in Sydney and Melbourne or Brisbane. But I feel too that people are obeying the law, even though some people want to challenge it or don't believe this is happening. But I think the whole reality of it is that when you're at home, I know it's different. We're pretty outgoing people here, and for people like yourself, you have the beach near you. or for myself, I live near the river, lakes, and fishing and all boating activities had to be stopped for a while, so no big deal. But do you see something a little bit different from your point of view of people taking on a new challenge? Like, do you reckon people might be creating their own fun, like things like you do? They go and build something and be a bit more resourceful than they might have been in the normal sort of stakes.
Oh, that, for sure. And you're seeing that with the lineups at Bunnings. So, and I've made some comments on my Instagram about staying home and not even going to Bunnings, even though you just want to get out and do stuff. Like there's a dozen things I need to go out and buy so I can continue with projects and the like. But I'm just sticking with. I'm just going to do my little bit. I'll write it out. I'll use what I've got to get through the time until things return to normal. So, if, they keep harping on about if it's not essential, stay home. So, I think all these home renovations is great for people, but all we're doing is inadvertently putting more people together. And again, in Townsville, highly unlikely because the numbers aren't there. But I think you turn the news on and you look at Italy, Spain, and now the United States. Like if those numbers don't give Chelsea a spine, I mean, you really do have your head in the sand.
Yeah.
So I mean, in the last few days, we're starting to see these numbers of our curve starting to flatten in Australia, and I just think we are in such a lucky position that we've got to that already. Because given the size of our country and our population, we still could have seen big numbers and devastation and a massive impact on health systems. So. Yeah. Again, I think we've just got to thank our lucky stars that aren't okay this.
And that's true. Like I know when you say Bunnings or being our biggest hardware store, that I noticed in my one last time I went there was 4 people allowed per aisle. And I probably think that if we had like a one-way system where people could just make their way at a distance around, that's something that's probably the best case scenario for not being in any type of situation. But I was a little bit floored because in Bunnings when I was there, I saw 2 young guys shaking hands. They hadn't seen each other and they shook hands, and I nearly fell over. I thought, a bunch of dickheads, mate. What's going on? Do you not notice what's going on the news and that? But
yeah,
it's just amazing. But as a family man, how do you? I know you said your partner and your kids are probably being tested, but what type of arrangement have they sort of set up at home to say, all right, we're going to overcome this, let's do something different?
I think the biggest thing we'll know is because it's actually school holidays right now, so I probably wouldn't have even been in the shed, so we'd be out doing stuff. For my wife, we gave herself about 2 weeks to swap these businesses over, so she's got a massive workload and things to do. It's almost a blessing in disguise. She's got a bit more of an extended timeline to do those things.
Yeah.
And for the kids, I think they're actually coping quite well. So we're actually cracking the whip to get them outside, jump in the pool, keep the blood flowing, all those sorts of things. I think when the term starts back and we've got to then start doing homeschooling, that's where it's going to get interesting because I've now got the full-time job and trying to get all this stuff built for my wife, but we've also got to look after the kids. So, everything's just going to have to slow down, spread out, and again, it is what it is. We've just got to write it out.
Indeed, it is, mate. And I've always known you to have a little bit of a positive vibe all the time, and I find that's something. It's a little bit lost on people at the moment because they're still adapting, but I also see a lot of good decency happening. Apart from people getting a little bit upset about the scenario, but do you think when we're past the stage of this whole process of supposed lockdown, do you think people will generally treat each other a little bit better and think a little bit before they perhaps just go back to the fast-paced lifestyle? Hopefully.
Yeah, I think we're going to say hopefully a lot, but I think it will change a lot of people. But I think there will be a vast amount that will return to normal. Like you've only got to look at the first few weeks of all the toilet paper going off the shelves. Like it's a completely irrational way to behave, and we're 7 weeks in since the toilet paper went off the shelves, and I only know this because I'm signed up to those Woolworths emails, and the CEO's been putting in a few dot points to say, and he's quoting these phenomenal numbers about what they normally sell and what they're selling right now. So, which only means all these products are still being stockpiled in people's homes because you can't physically use them, but they're selling almost double than they normally would. So all that silly behaviour. When we go back to normal, you would hope that those sorts of things return pretty quickly. But there's going to be a heap of people with a heap of day roll stacked up in their days, mate.
I know. It's bizarre. It's beyond me, like some of the experts have said, Australia's agricultural sector and, what we still produce, we've got 3 times the amount of, food and essential goods that we need for the population. So I just don't think sometimes people listen to mainstream reports, radio in particular, and take it like it's a selfish thing to do. And if you slow down and say, well, there's enough for everyone, so that can be business as usual. You don't have to go in and fight over dunny roll, It's ridiculous.
No.
But
the one that gets me now is flour and all those sorts of things. When there's tons of bread and bakery products on the shelf, I know people are trying to probably avoid the shops, but we're not going to run out in a hurry.
No, and businesses are having to diversify a bit into offering now free delivery on. They can make stuff and deliver it to your front door. I find now I'm going tap and go everywhere, and that was something that was like I would never have tried to do that maybe 12 months ago, but you think, all right, one of the dirtiest things you can handle in your life is cash. So we'll get the card out, bang. But then you don't know how much you got left.
But without being rude, that's probably just a generational thing, mate.
Yeah.
So, you'll just get used to doing it. And saying that contactless stuff I got, this is one of the stupid stories, right? So I go to the survey the other day and I'm reading there things you can do to help us. And one of them was scan your own rewards card. So I walk into the survey and I go to scan it, and the lady at the counter goes to take the card off me. And I'm like, hey, whoa, no, you're not allowed. Not allowed to touch my card. And I go, practically. And I said, it says on the side, outside, contactless. Don't touch it. And she goes, oh, no, I don't care about that.
Yeah.
When that shit happens, that's when I think we're doomed.
It's one of the funny scenarios, because in my job I have to we have a delivery docket when we get to drop our goods off. It's checked off, and the delivery docket gets handed over. So God knows where that paper's been. I've been handling it. I mean, I'm practicing the safest hygiene I can, but we're standing like 3 meters apart, which is fair enough. But then I hand a bit of paper. So am I supposed to put on a glove to enable that to happen? And it becomes where do we stand on all this? But once again, I think it's the food for thought. If you have it in the back of your mind, think safety, act safety. It's something at least better than not even contemplating that.
Yeah, I mean, and now this has all happened, you just don't realise how much stuff you touch. When you're trying to keep your hands clean, once you're home and you're all cleaned up, it's all good. But when you go back into your workplace, I'm washing my hands dozens of times a day, using hand sanitizer, in and out of the helicopter. You touch so much stuff. I think what's important is keeping your hands away from your face, because you're inevitably going to touch something. So we can't transfer it. That's all you can do, and hope for the best.
Yeah. Well, mate, that's it's good to hear that you're given another angle here because, as I said, I've spoken to people in different parts of the world, with different dynamic of life and where they live, surroundings, weather, and it's. Well, I had a chat to Chris, who's a mate of mine, but it's nice to hear your side of it. You live as far away from where I am. You may as well be overseas, sort of thing.
Yeah, mate.
You know what they say about Queenslanders?
No, it's a whole other country.
Hey, mate, thanks a lot for having a chat with me, and I look forward to keep following you as DainerDesign on Instagram and YouTube. Great channel, great Instagram account, and mate, I reckon you go places with your design ideas, and I reckon you're going to sell a bit of furniture as you keep going along. And nice miter saw too, Team Bosch.
Yeah. That's it, mate. It's beauty. No, thanks for the kind words, mate. I'm not going anywhere, like you say. Thanks for staying in touch. And Dad Joke Wednesday, you're committed to that, mate. Couple.
Yep.
When you got that downtime, as long as you're not driving your truck and using your phone, I'm on to you.
No, mate. No.
Good on you, mate. Really appreciate you ringing in. It's been good.
No worries, mate. Thank you.